Before we dive in, if you love epic tales of war, strategy, hit that subscribe and like button, turn on notifications, and join our growing legion of warriors. Now, let's begin. Imagine, one day, deep within the cold void of space, a faint signal whispers through the darkness. A message not meant for human ears. But we hear it, and everything changes. It started with a subtle blip, an anomaly detected by an aging deep space array stationed on Titan's frozen surface. At first, it was dismissed as cosmic interference, background radiation, a pulsar's echo, or perhaps the dying breath of a distant star. But then, the pattern emerged. Not random, not natural, intelligent, a pulse of prime numbers, mathematical structures woven together with an elegance that no stellar phenomenon could replicate. Earth's scientific community erupted in a frenzy. Governments scrambled to keep it under wraps, but in the age of interstellar expansion, secrets rarely stayed buried. The world's most powerful AI decryption networks were set to work, unraveling the hidden meaning behind the signal. And what they found was a warning. Not an invitation, not a greeting, but a cold, calculated broadcast. A set of coordinates with a simple, chilling message: do not come, do not respond. You will not survive. For the first time in human history, we had proof. We were not alone. But instead of wonder, we were met with a silent, unseen menace lurking in the great abyss. Yet, humanity has never been good at obeying warnings. A coalition of Earth's most advanced spacefaring nations, now united under the banner of the Terran hegemony, made the call. We would go. A mission unlike any before was prepared. The Erebus Initiative, a fleet of the most powerful warships ever constructed, would journey to the coordinates, seeking the truth hidden in the void. At its heart, the flagship TSS Aegis, a behemoth of human engineering, armed with experimental weapons that had never been tested in battle. It was a journey of uncertainty, of arrogance, of defiance against a force we did not understand. And so, humanity's challenge was issued, not with words, but with action. What waited for them beyond the stars was something they could never have imagined. Something that had been watching us all along. The Erebus Initiative set sail into the great unknown, a fleet of 5 colossal warships, each a testament to Earth's defiance. TSS Aegis led the charge, flanked by its sister ships, Perseus, Valkyrie, Hades, and Prometheus. These were not mere exploratory vessels. They were armored leviathans built for war, equipped with quantum rail cannons, antimatter lances, and a new experimental defense system, the Aegis Barrier, a shield capable of bending space-time itself. Their mission: to reach the source of the warning, to prove that humanity was not prey. For months they drifted through the void, their course locked onto the distant star system designated Xylith 7. The silence was deafening. No more transmissions, no signs of life. Just the eerie, endless abyss of deep space, until they arrived. The system was unlike anything ever recorded. A dead world floated before them, a planet stripped bare, scorched continents, shattered moons, a graveyard of alien wreckage orbiting its lifeless husk. The fleet's sensors scanned the ruins. There were no survivors. Whoever had lived here was gone. Then, the anomalies began. It started small. Phantom readings, sensor distortions, energy spikes that appeared and vanished in an instant. The fleet's AI systems struggled to process the data. Something was watching them. Then came the shadows. At the edge of the system, distortions flickered against the black, a presence hiding in the dark. It moved like a whisper, slipping between dimensions, its form unreadable to human sensors. Admiral Elias Varen, commander of the fleet, stood on the bridge of the Aegis, eyes locked onto the swirling abyss beyond. "They're testing us," he murmured, "studying us." And then, the stars themselves blinked out. A massive writhing construct emerged from the void, a living fortress of obsidian and fire. It was no mere ship. It was something else entirely. A leviathan. It did not communicate. It did not negotiate. It attacked. A beam of impossible energy lanced through space, faster than light, faster than thought. The Prometheus was the first to die. Its hull evaporated, its crew erased from existence. The shockwave sent the remaining ships into chaos. They had seconds to react. "All ships, engage!" Varen roared. The void erupted into war. Rail cannons thundered. Swarms of autonomous drones screamed through the darkness. The Aegis barrier flared to life, distorting reality around the flagship as enemy fire twisted harmlessly away. But the Leviathan was beyond anything humanity had ever faced. It moved like liquid shadow, shifting between dimensions, its very presence distorting time and space. Every time the fleet thought they had a target, it was already somewhere else. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. And humanity was losing. The void was on fire. What had started as a battle was now a desperate struggle for survival. The Leviathan moved like a living nightmare, slipping between dimensions as if the laws of physics were mere suggestions. Its attacks were not conventional weapons, but raw distortions of space-time itself. Entire chunks of reality warped and collapsed wherever its weapons struck. The Perseus didn't stand a chance. One moment, it was there, firing its rail cannons, in defiance. The next, it folded inward, compacted into a singularity no larger than a grain of sand. Gone. On the bridge of the Aegis, Admiral Elias Varan gritted his teeth. Every tactical maneuver they attempted was useless. The Leviathan anticipated them, countered them, toyed with them. "Sir, we've got incoming," cried out Lieutenant Rains, her hands flying over the control panel. It's everywhere," Varen didn't need to ask. The view screen told him all he needed to know. The Leviathan was multiplying. What had once been a singular, unfathomable entity had fractured into a dozen smaller forms, each one just as deadly. The surviving ships, Aegis, Valkyrie, and Hades, were now completely surrounded. There was no way out. "Fire everything we've got," Varen bellowed. The Aegis and her remaining sisters unleashed a storm of death. Antimatter warheads detonated, turning space into a burning inferno. Rail cannons fired, sending slugs the size of buildings screaming into the abyss. The Valkyrie's Thanatos lance, a weapon designed to collapse small moons, tore through the enemy formations, carving a wound into the darkness. For a moment, just a moment, they heard it. The Leviathan recoiled, its writhing mass spasming, as the wounds glowed with a strange violet light. It let out a sound, not a scream, but a signal. A pulse of data, fired directly into the fleet's systems. Every screen flickered. Every ship went dark. And then, they saw. A vision slammed into their minds. Not words, not language, but pure, incomprehensible truth. It was an image of the past. A war, fought long before mankind ever took its first steps into the stars. The Leviathan was not a conqueror. It was not an invader. It was a prison warden. This dead world, Xylith 7, had once been home to an ancient species, a race far older and more powerful than anything humanity had ever known. And they had created something monstrous, a force that had devoured their civilization, leaving nothing but ruins. The Leviathan had been forged to contain it, to ensure it never spread. And then humanity arrived. Our presence, our weapons, our interference had weakened the cage. The pulse faded, the lights returned. But now, Varen understood the awful truth. They hadn't come to kill us. They had come to stop us from dooming ourselves. But it was too late. A fracture spread across the planet below, and from its depths, something began to rise. The true enemy. The true nightmare. And this time, it wasn't just humanity that was at risk. The entire galaxy was about to burn. The planet Xylith 7 was breaking apart. From its fractured crust, a monstrosity unlike anything in recorded history began to emerge. The surviving warships of the Erebus Initiative hovered above in silence, shaken, damaged, and now faced with a horror beyond comprehension. The Leviathan, once their enemy, had halted its attack. It now drifted away from the Terran fleet, reorienting itself toward the planet's surface. It knew. It had always known. Something was down there. Something older than stars. Something beyond death. And it was waking up. Varen gripped the edges, of his command console as new data flooded the Aegis's sensors. The entity rising from Xylith 7's core wasn't just large, it wasn't just powerful, it was infinite. A writhing mass of blackened tendrils, shifting geometry, and impossible angles coiled out from the planet's wounds, swallowing entire chunks of crust as if reality itself was breaking down in its presence. It was not bound by form, nor by time. It moved in ways the human mind was never meant to comprehend. And then, it spoke. Not in words, not in sound, but in a wave of sheer, overwhelming madness. Every human aboard the fleet felt it. Their minds buckled under the sheer weight of its presence. Memories bled together, time unraveled, and reality itself became a fragile suggestion. Some collapsed, convulsing as their brains refused to process the eldritch truth invading their thoughts. Others screamed, clutching their heads as if trying to force the knowledge back out. It was not a creature. It was not a god. It was the absence of both. A force older than creation itself. A hunger that had once consumed entire civilizations, wiping them from existence so thoroughly that not even time remembered them. The race that had lived here had tried to contain it, but they had failed. And now, thanks to humanity's interference, it was free. The Leviathan moved first. It hurled itself into the abyss, its massive obsidian form colliding with the nightmare that had been imprisoned for eons. The impact sent shockwaves across the system. The Leviathan struck with everything. It had dimensional warps, gravitic implosions, weapons that made even humanity's deadliest superweapons seem like firecrackers. It fought, it burned, and it died. The cosmic horror unmade the Leviathan with a single, effortless motion. It did not crush it. It did not destroy it. It erased it. Every trace, every atom, every whisper of its existence. Gone. Admiral Varen stood frozen on the Aegis bridge, his breath caught in his throat. He had never believed in gods. He had never believed in fate, but in that moment, as he watched an entity beyond time and reason consume the Leviathan like it was nothing more than a fleeting thought, he realized humanity had made a terrible mistake. They had not challenged the stars. They had challenged the abyss. And the abyss was winning. The abyss loomed over them. The entity that had once been imprisoned beneath Xylith 7 was now free. A living nightmare unraveling reality itself. The remains of the Leviathan had been erased, its vast power amounting to nothing before this ancient force. And now, it turned its attention to the last remnants of humanity in this forsaken system. The fleet was in tatters. Only 3 ships remained: the Aegis, Valkyrie, and Hades. Their hulls were scorched, their weapons depleted. Escape was an option, but not for long. Time itself was warping. Admiral Varen clutched the console, trying to steady his breathing. The bridge of the Aegis flickered, lights distorting, screens freezing, and then replaying events that had already happened. Time was coming apart. If they didn't act now, they would be trapped in this dying system forever. Options, Varen snapped. Silence. His crew, his people, were barely holding on. Some whispered to themselves, their minds fraying under the weight of the entity's presence. Others stared into nothingness, their eyes filled with images of things no human should ever see. But one voice broke through the chaos. Commander Arden Rowe, his second-in-command, stood firm. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. "Sir, we may have one shot. The Aegis barrier. It wasn't designed for offense, but if we overload it..." Varen's eyes widened. The Aegis barrier wasn't just a shield. It was a reality distortion. Field. A prototype designed to bend space-time around the ship. If they overloaded it, they could weaponize it. "That would kill us," Lieutenant Rains murmured. "It would collapse everything around us." Varen exhaled. It doesn't matter. This was no longer about survival. This was about stopping whatever this thing was before it reached the rest of the galaxy. "Get me Captain Solis on the Valkyrie and Commander Briggs on the Hades." The holofeed flickered as the remaining officers appeared. Their ships were barely functional, but their eyes were still filled with fire. They understood. This was humanity's last stand. "Divert all remaining power to the Aegis barrier," Varen ordered. "When it reaches critical mass, We detonate it, compressing space-time into a singularity. It won't destroy it, but it might seal it. A heavy silence settled over the bridge. And then, one by one, they nodded. No more words were needed. The final battle. The Aegis, Valkyrie, and Hades surged forward, pushing through the collapsing battlefield. The entity reacted instantly, its massive, formless shape expanding, its tendrils reaching toward them. It knew what they were trying to do. The Hades was the first to fall. A single lash of dark matter sliced through its hull, and in an instant, it was gone. Not destroyed, removed, as if it had never existed. The Valkyrie followed moments later, sacrificing itself in a final, desperate charge, launching its last antimatter payload straight into the heart of the entity. The explosion lit up the void, but the creature barely flinched. Only the Aegis remained. "We're at critical mass," Ro shouted. "Admiral, we have seconds." Varen gritted his teeth. He turned his gaze toward the abyss, staring into its endless, shifting depths. It was hungry. It was eternal. But so was humanity's defiance. Execute. The Aegis barrier erupted, a blinding cascade of light shattered through the battlefield as the ship's experimental shield imploded into itself, warping. The very fabric of space, reality twisted, folding in on itself as the singularity expanded. A prison of pure gravitational force, designed to hold a god. The entity screamed, not in sound, not in language, but in pure, raw hatred. It fought. It resisted. But the singularity was absolute. The abyss had met something even it could not consume. Humanity's willingness to sacrifice everything to defy it. As the collapse reached its peak, Varen took a final breath. He did not fear death. He had challenged the stars, and he had won. The Aegis was swallowed by the singularity, and then silence. The system of Xylith 7 was empty. The abyss was gone. Sealed once more. Humanity had lost its fleet, but it had saved the galaxy. And in the cold darkness of space, where no one remained to witness, the stars shone a little brighter. The war was over, but there were no victors. The Xylith 7 system had been silenced, its planets shattered, its space scarred, its very fabric of reality bruised by the nightmare that had been unleashed, and sealed away once more. No signals came. From the void, no distress beacons, no survivors. Humanity had stood against the abyss, and the price was everything. For days, for weeks, the galaxy remained unaware of what had transpired in that forsaken system. The Terran High Command had lost contact with Admiral Varan's fleet, and every attempt to scan Xylith 7 returned only static. It was as if the entire battle had never happened. But then, a transmission. A faint, broken signal, encrypted in Terran military code, was detected on the outer edge of human space. At first, it was dismissed as an anomaly, a glitch, until someone listened to it and heard a voice. "This is Admiral Varen. If anyone can hear me." Static. We held the line. "The abyss won't reach you. But it's not over. We didn't kill it. We only slowed it down." The message distorted, fragmented, as if it had traveled across 1,000 years of time and space to reach them. It's still there, and someday it will wake up again. Then, just before the signal collapsed into silence, came the final words, chilling, impossible, but unmistakably clear. "We are still here. The Ghost Fleet, the Aegis, the Valkyrie, the Hades. 3 ships lost to the void, their crews presumed dead. But now, their names whispered in the shadows of deep space. Explorers on the edges of Terran territory reported phantom readings, unregistered vessels appearing on sensors for mere seconds before vanishing. Their signatures matched the lost fleet. A trading convoy passing through a desolate sector received an unknown transmission. A voice, distorted, broken, uttering 2 words. "Keep watching." And then, the most terrifying of all, a deep space probe returning from the Xylith 7 system captured an image. For a fraction of a second, before the probe mysteriously ceased functioning, it recorded a ship. A ship that should not exist. The Aegis. Its hull scarred, half-phased between dimensions, its engines burning with an eerie blue glow. And in its shadow, where light refused to touch, something else lurked. Something waiting. Something watching. The abyss had not forgotten humanity, and neither had the ones who challenged it. A warning to the future. The Terran High Command classified the transmission. The public never learned what had happened at Xylith 7, but in the darkest halls of power, where admirals and intelligence officers gathered, one undeniable truth remained. The war was not over. It was merely delayed. The abyss would return. The question was not if, but when. And when it did, would humanity be ready, or would they, this time, face oblivion with no one left to stop it? Only the whispers of the void held the answer. But if you listen closely, you might still hear them, the lost fleet, the ones who defied the abyss and won. Final words and call to action, the question remains. Did Admiral Varen and his fleet truly perish? Or did something else happen to them? Could it be possible that they exist somewhere beyond our understanding? And if so, what did they bring back with them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think humanity will ever encounter the abyss again? And if they do, will they survive? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to HFY Chronicles-849 for more thrilling sci-fi adventures. There's more to the universe than we know, and sometimes what's out there is watching us. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.